are listening to The Common Sense Practical Prepper, sponsored by Duct Tape, the real duct tape. It fixes everything, except bad decisions. Good evening, Mr. and Mrs. America. From border to border, coast to coast, and all ships at sea, here is your host, Keith.
Hey all, this is Keith, and welcome back to the Common Sense Practical Prepper podcast, February the 18th, 2026. So I know I've said several times before, and I've thanked you all numerous times for liking, sharing, and dropping a review for the podcast. And I really do mean it. The amount of listeners and downloads over the last couple months has increased exponentially, and it's all because of you, and I want to thank you once again. You know, every once in a while I give a shout out to some of our new listeners. So here's a shout out to our new listeners: Saudi Arabia, Qatar, Iraq, and yes, Iran. First time the Middle East has ever popped up on the download map. Now, word is, and I read this article about a week and a half ago, the U.S. government and some of its alphabet agencies smuggled in about 6,000 Starlink terminals to Iran. Now, you know, they're going through the protest. I wouldn't quite call it a revolution, but the people have really had enough, and there's been a lot of violence in the streets, pushing back against the government forces, the army, and unfortunately, a lot of protesters have lost their lives. But I was absolutely blown away when I saw Saudi Arabia, Qatar, Iraq. I'm like, the thing about those three countries is Starlink has been in negotiations with them since late 2025. So I understand why maybe they popped up. But when I saw Iran, I about fell out of my chair. So Iran, if you're listening, that takes guts. How you found me and why you want to listen to this podcast, I have no earthly idea, but you do you. Keep your head down. Everybody wishes you all the best. We hope that you are successful in getting what you want, getting more freedom. God bless you, or Allah bless you. Whatever works. But I will speak for myself and say that I am personally behind the folks living in Iran who want to get out of this oppression, away from this government, and to see what real freedom is. Now, they may or may not be aware that in the last 12 to 18 hours, dozens of U.S. fighters and mid-air refueling tankers, KC-135s, have made their way across the Atlantic, across the EU, and into the Mediterranean. Now, I also read yesterday that Iran has tentatively accepted a deal around their nuclear enrichment program. Now, whether this is just a show of force to make sure that Iran abides by this tentative agreement, or they're about to get bombed back into the Stone Age, I have no idea. But I was absolutely over the moon to see that somebody in Iran actually downloaded this podcast. So, people of Iran, I'm behind you. Keep doing what you're doing. Keep your head down. And before you know it, Metallica may be in Tehran singing Enter Sandman. Who knows? All right, so what I really want to talk about tonight is I'm a people watcher. Been watching people all my life. And what I've noticed in the last, maybe a year and a half, maybe 2 years, is not only weird, it's concerning, and it's a bit upsetting to an extent. So you guys know what I'm talking about. You go into an airport, and we have grown adults that are boarding flights, and they're dressed like they just got out of bed. They got their fuzzy slippers, they got their PJs, they got their blankets, they got their teddy bears. Obviously not the attire for an international flight, let alone a domestic flight. It looks like they're going to nap instead of travel somewhere. At work, young adults between 18 and 30, 35 years old, rolling in late, scrolling TikTok. They look like zombies, face plastered to their phones, running into walls, tripping over themselves, not paying attention. No eye contact. It's just a job, sure, but whose job is it? Gas stations, Walmart. Not too long ago, I saw a guy pumping gas at a gas station in slippers, not flip-flops, like house slippers. So slipping on the oil and the gas and everything around the gas pumps. Go to Walmart, Food Lion, the grocery store. I cannot count how many times the cashier has had AirPods in, having a conversation over the phone instead of paying attention to me and the other customers. No eye contact, no welcome to Kroger, no welcome to Walmart, no 3250 swipe your card. Thank you very much. Here's your receipt. Have a nice day. Nothing. It's like me being there interrupted their phone call. So I believe there is a distinction between people's behavior, attitude, pre-COVID and post-COVID. During COVID, all the kids went to Zoom school. Everything was online, no accountability, no real grind. If they decided to get up, they just basically sat up on their bed and opened up their Chromebook or their laptop and, quote, went to school, end quote. During that period of time, there was no skin in the game. Nobody learned how to lose. Nobody had to show up. They didn't have to learn to show up. They didn't have to get up an hour before school, take a shower, eat breakfast, get dressed, grab the bus, or drive to work or drive to school. Everybody's soft. Everything's soft. There's no stakes. Parents hover. Schools pass you on effort alone. Don't worry about a grade. As long as you try, we're going to push you through school. Bosses don't fire anybody. There is no accountability. So from their perspective, why should I even try? Why should I try to excel at school? Why should I try to excel in my job? I just don't care. I don't care if I get promoted because I do the bare minimum, if not less, and I still get a paycheck. So if you're 30 years old and you still live in your parents' basement, with very few exceptions, that's unacceptable. And let me explain that. So if you're living at home and it's temporary, you're saving up money for a house because on your current salary, you can't afford a mortgage, and I get it. Interest rates are too high. I get it. So if you need to stay at home to gather the money to then go out at some point, a year, 2 years, whenever, to get your house or to have your credit built up to again then pay the rent for an apartment, I got you. No issue with that. But if you're living in your parents' basement just because you can, eating Doritos, drinking Monster, and playing PS5 all day and not have a job, that's a problem. Social media has a lot of good aspects to it, but there's a lot of, let's put it this way, social media has its place. But when you take folks that have no initiative, no drive, they don't know what the grind is, and they could care less about everything, all it takes is a social media post, one clip, and they treat it like gospel because they've grown up, maybe not necessarily raised, but they've grown up addicted to social media. They don't have to think. They don't have to be a critical thinker. They don't have to say, I don't know if that just doesn't make any sense. Let me check another source. Well, to check another source would require effort. That means you might have to get up. That means you might have to swipe to a different web page. Lord forbid, you have to swipe to a different website and verify the little soundbite that an influencer, a politician, an actor, a musician, Lord forbid you verify or try to validate what they said, but instead you take it as gospel. Don't check the facts because that requires effort. It just feels right. Feelings play a big part in today's society. So take what I saw a few days ago, a video I saw about a week ago. So we know ICE round up 75% of the illegal aliens that ICE is detaining, arresting, and then deporting have already had their due process. And not to go off on a tangent, or they've already been arrested and released. They have violent criminal histories in their home country. So ICE isn't out scooping up people that jaywalk. The vast majority of who ICE is grabbing are violent criminals, felonious assault, rape, robbery, murder, crimes against children, crimes along those lines. ICE was out looking for this cat, and this lady is following their van, blowing her whistle, honking her horn, trying to warn the bad guys that ICE is coming down the street. An ICE agent walked up to her and said, "Do you realize that we're after a criminal who raped somebody? You're interfering with us trying to arrest him." Her response, "I don't care." Not prove it, who got hurt, just I don't care. That's not compassion. That's ego. That's optics. over justice. And if I could sum up this whole podcast into one sentence, that would be it. And these aren't young adults that are interfering with ICE. Some of these folks are older, and there's no excuse for that. But just, I don't care. That covers the zombies that shuffle at work, the zombies at Walmart, folks in the airport in their slippers and teddy bears. That sums it up. So let's tie this to prepping. When the grid drops, no power, no food on the shelves, no Uber, the zombies will collapse. Pajamas won't save you. Your TikTok or the feed you're looking at on your phone won't feed you. I don't care get you trampled, or worse, they turn into a mob of people begging for scraps. Like I said before, people get desperate. I'm not mad, I'm worried, because these are the folks who can't get up, can't dress like an adult, can't look you in the eye. They're not just unproductive in many ways. I consider them, not all, I consider some of them a liability in an SHTF situation. They're a hindrance. As I said a second ago, later on in the SHTF situation, they become desperate. They're either going to curl up and die and just give up because they don't care, or because X, Y, and Z was not handed to them, or they join the chaos. Either way, these folks are not going to make it. Not because of a lack of beans, bullets, or rice. It's because they lack a spine. They can't speak for themselves, defend themselves, think for themselves. So there is no fix for this, in my opinion. It's not my job to fix it. Reminds me of a story when I was a police officer. I actually got a call in my department, to their credit, and maybe to their detriment at times. They would send they called it a cop on every call. Now, the county's at the point to where they can't do that. The population of the county has basically exploded, and they're not able to have enough officers on the street to be able to respond to every single call for service. I mean, every call. But when I was a cop, we did. I can't tell you how many times I responded to a resident, and the call was that their son or daughter would not get up to go to school. Their son or daughter would not clean their room. Their son or daughter were being disrespectful to their parents. I kid you not. I know everybody's probably shaking their head going, there's no way somebody would dial 911, and there's no way a police department would waste resources by sending a police officer to that type of call. Folks, I'm here to tell you that during my time as a patrolman, that's exactly what we did. I'm not saying it was right or wrong, but that's what was expected, and that's what we did. There was more than one occasion where I went to these calls, and the kid was just sitting there being disrespectful, not necessarily talking back to the parent while I was there, but they would bicker back and forth, and you could just tell the kid was just sitting there like, just leave me alone. I can't believe you called the cops on me. The parent would run through a list of all the things their kid was not doing. They don't clean their room. They don't go to school. They don't do their homework. They're being disrespectful. On more than one occasion, I turned to the parent and I said, ma'am or sir, mom or dad, ma'am or sir, you expect me to stand here and in 15 minutes undo 15 years of you not being a parent. The funny thing about that, as a police officer, all officers got complaints. Some were legitimate complaints. Some were BS complaints by the citizen. The handful of times that I said that to those parents, not a single one of them called and made a complaint. Not a single one of them told me I was wrong. If I remember correctly, they all just looked at me and couldn't believe that I had just spoke to them like that and said that to them. Now, I was respectful. I wasn't rude, but I think they were either in shock or maybe for a split second, a couple of them went, holy crap, he's right. So like I said a few minutes ago, folks, I don't think there's a fix for this. The people that listen to this podcast, you are not those kind of parents. The people that listen to their podcast are not shuffling through Walmart or Primark or Sainsbury or the equivalent of Kroger and Walmart in all the other countries that are listening. You're not like that. But when the poop hits the fan, when push comes to shove, the people shuffling around in their pajamas and slippers that just don't care, those are the people that I worry about if the poop really hits the fan. And some part of me thinks it's just the, hey, you kids, get out of my yard mentality that I've developed over the last several years. I actually have that t-shirt. Hey, you kids, get off my lawn. I don't want to say I'm necessarily the grumpy old man, but depending on what we're talking about, sometimes I'm the grumpy old man. It's very frustrating when you see the I just don't care attitude. It's bad enough that the young adults have it, but when the older adult and some middle-aged adults have it, that's a little frightening. All right, folks, I will get off my soapbox for the evening. Thank you for stopping by. Please like, share, subscribe, leave a review if you would. Again, the audience, numbers, downloads absolutely went parabolic over the last few months. And that is because of you. I appreciate everybody taking just a few minutes out of their busy day to listen to me ramble. And another quick fun fact, my folks in Sydney, you are by far my most loyal listeners and have the most downloads of any city outside the United States. So again, thank you to everybody. Thank you to the folks here in the States. Thank you to the folks around the world. Thanks to the folks in Iran. More power to you, folks. I'll see everybody very soon. And as always, take care of one another. Be careful out there. If you're in Tehran or Iran, the bombs start dropping, keep your heads down. And until next time.
You've been listening to The Common Sense Practical Prepper. Subscribe, like, drop a review. Over and out.